So if you begin eliminating the things in this video, I promise you will start to see visible changes in your physique. You will start to feel better mentally, your clarity will improve, and also your focus during your work sessions, and even your mood will be elevated because you're getting rid of things that you don't really need in your life. I'm going to go over 11 things. I'm going to mention why I think you should be eliminating them and provide some alternatives to them if possible. First thing to avoid is fast food. Because fast food has one goal, and it's to expand. It is to reach as many people as possible in as little time as possible. They don't really care about quality as much. Their food will undergo a very high processing amount so it can stay for longer, which basically drives profits. They can't afford to buy things fresh and cook it fresh for you because then they can't scale. Due to the business requirement, they make things shorter, they add preservatives in it, they make food that's not even food anymore so it stays in each restaurant for longer. Now because of that, we're the ones taking the hit. It's our heart health, it's our bodies, it's our arteries are getting clogged up from all this shit that they're making. What I would recommend is starting to actually invest and go into more expensive places. Go to restaurants, go to places that maybe cost a little more, but you know that they're going to be sourcing their food responsibly. Number 2 is energy and sugary drinks. Now these drinks are absolutely loaded with sugars to a point that you probably won't even believe. These drinks can easily contribute to weight gain and type 2 diabetes and energy crashes because of the spike in sugar levels, which lead to a below baseline plummet. I want you to look at this picture, right? This is literally the amount of sugar that you'd be consuming in a can of full fat Coke versus a can of Diet Coke. You're basically, imagine getting a teaspoon and eating that much sugar. That's basically what you're doing when you're drinking that can of Coke. Now for me, I cannot remember, on God, the last time I had a full fat Coke or a full fat drink. I do not go near them. Very, very rarely I'll have a 0 calorie drink, but most of the time, even when I go out to eat, I just get water. I feel better that way. I know I'm not putting that shit into my body. So what you should do is try to pick those 0 calorie options. So number 3 is eliminating trans fats. Trans fats basically raise your bad cholesterol and lower your good cholesterol. And they also increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, and even type 2 diabetes as well. And these trans fats are the ones that are found in vegetable oils, baked foods, processed foods, pre-packaged foods. They go through that refining process, very similar to, like I mentioned, with those fast foods. You want to avoid these fats at all costs. They're literally going to be killing you off day by day. You're literally digging yourself an early grave. You won't see the negative consequences until you're later down the line, but I really recommend you stay away from them. You want to use alternatives like olive oil, avocados, nuts and seeds, things that are more natural, things that are actually used by your body for good things like hormone production. Trans fat consumption is strongly linked to an increased risk of coronary heart disease due to its effect on raising LDL cholesterol and lowering HDL cholesterol. Another study looked at trans fat consumption and memory in older adults. This study found that higher intake of trans fats was associated with worse word memory in adults aged 45 and older, suggesting a negative impact on cognitive health. Now 45, trust me brother, is still very young. You could be living a very, very healthy life at 45 if you do the right thing. So make sure we're not overly consuming these type of fats because it will pay a big, big impact downstream, especially if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you want to build your own business. By the time you're 40, that's when your business is really going to start kicking into gear. Your brain needs to be at max capacity. So don't think because you're in your 20s you can get away with it, because if you think long term, if you want to think about your family and your kids and how much you want to grow past that 45, I don't want to be eating this shit right now. Next, similar to trans fats, is processed snacks. So chips, cookies, other processed snacks that you can easily eat because they're high in those unhealthy fats, trans fats and sugars, and they're highly, highly addictive as well, which can lead to that poor nutrition and weight gain. So even if you have a good spell of training, good spell of nutrition, just going into this loop can set you back, which is very, very common. We have to change a habit when it comes to that. Now you have to understand that these type of foods have hidden calories. For example, there's 205 calories in a cookie and there is 50 calories in an apple. Which one makes you feel better? Which one fills you up more? Which one keeps you craving for more and more of it? It's very important to keep in mind. See, these highly addictive snacks and foods have something called a 50-50 split. So have a split between fats and sugars, which is basically sends signals in our brain to go and attack it. That's because when we were hunter-gatherers, having high fats and high sugars were very hard, so our brain's wired to go after it. So whenever we eat that one cookie, we'll always want the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. And this is what leads to highly addictive behaviours. The best thing to do in this situation is to always to be full. Make sure you're eating food at your scheduled time, and make sure not to buy these snacks into your house, because if they're there, you will eat it, because I'm the same. So I just don't put myself in that environment in the first place. Next is having excessive alcohol. So alcohol is very high in empty calories. It actually stops your fat burning process because your body stops that to break down alcohol that you drank. It also disrupts your sleep. impairs your judgment, and can even have after effects on the workout the next day. It also puts some strain on your liver and the other organs when it comes to breaking down the alcohol. So I actually quit alcohol a couple of years back actually. I'll never go back to it as well, and this was even before I reverted. So even if I wasn't a Muslim, I still would not drink alcohol because I just don't see the benefit in it. The next is living a sedentary lifestyle, which is so common among so many people nowadays, especially in the business world and people who are focused on climbing themselves in their career. Sitting for long periods of time can lead to weight gain, poor posture like kyphosis, and increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Regular physical activity is essential for overall health, and this is why I made this channel, to get people off their ass and to start training and to build a lifestyle around it. So when I used to be sedentary, when I was through that COVID phase, just sitting there playing PlayStation all day, every day, I started developing low back problems, my neck started hurting, my shoulders started hurting because there was no movement. See, when you move, when you exercise, your body releases something called synovial fluid, which is like the lubricant for your joints. So when you do that, you're able to be more flexible, more loose. So making sure you're warm and your joints are getting consistent training from some sort of sport is vital. Make exercise a part of your daily life. It should literally be your routine. The same as you think about having a shower, brushing your teeth, whatever it is that you think is automatic, exercise and training or a plan should be the same as that. I would hold it at the same category as everything else that you hold very normal in your life. Training should be a part of that. The next is smoking. So smoking is actually a all-in-one. It'll probably destroy every single organ in your body at once. So yeah, keep that up. Your mouth, your tongue, your throat, anything that you want to destroy, just keep smoking, and congratulations, that will do that for you. It also increases the risk of cardiovascular diseases, respiratory issues, and of course cancer. The problem with smoking is it's also highly addictive because people use it to cope with stress. Now I've mentioned stress before. It has to be dealt with. People are stressed, they have to deal with that stress and bring it down. So people go back to the cigarette because it gives them that feeling of relief. So when you do that again and again, your mind starts to build that habit, and next thing you know, you always be going to reach for a cig whenever you get into a stressful situation. So to break that cycle, find another thing that you can do. Journal, meditate, exercise, stretch, do yoga, whatever it is. Find an alternative to break that loop so you don't go back to the cigarette. Next is actually artificial sweeteners. Now myself, I've not used much of it, but some studies have shown that it can have some impact on your gut microbes. So opt for natural sugars in moderation, in my opinion. Thing is, I tried like that stevia one time in a coffee or whatever, and it just made the coffee taste really weird. There was some unnatural texture in it which I didn't like, so I avoided it from then. I'd stick to natural stuff. For example, just use honey or use brown sugar instead of white sugar. Not much difference, but brown sugar is basically less refined, and I prefer the taste. I would avoid artificial sweeteners for now. The next is actually negative self-talk. Now, negative self-talk is key because it will make you feel worse about your situation. It makes you less motivated, less disciplined, and it will cause you to make worse and worse decisions over time. And it makes it very hard for you to stick to your health and fitness goals when you have a negative self-concept. Thinking highly of yourself, thinking better of yourself can massively increase your chance of sticking to those positive healthy habits that we're trying to implement into your life. I'm highly guilty of this as well. Whenever I make progress, I always look at what I don't have. If you're making progress and you're not appreciating it, you won't do that again. However, if you've made progress and you're appreciative of it and you have a positive self-image because you've ticked the task that you want to do, you're more likely to repeat it because you're giving your mind that positive feedback. Now I'm working on this myself, right? But whenever I've got into a stage of feeling really, really low, what I did was I had this thing called the gratitude journal, and every morning I'd wake up and I'd write 10 things that I was very grateful for. Lo and behold, in the space of a week, my mindset started to shift. I became way more positive because I'm forcing myself to sit down and think about what's going good in my life. You probably never even sat down and thought about, okay, what are 10 things that I'm grateful of? And don't blame me because I never have as well. But when you start to do it, you start to make a perspective shift. You start to see yourself differently, the position you're in differently, and you start to see opportunities and resources that you can use which you didn't see before because you're in that negative state. Give this example of if you're in a positive mind state, your world is like this small. You only see things in this small little circle. However, when you're in a positive state, you're more creative. Your world expands. You can see more options and you can do better, more exciting things. The next is lack of sleep. Insufficient sleep negatively affects your hormone production, negatively affects muscle protein synthesis, fat loss. All the stuff that you want to become better, more focused and sharper comes from sleep, right? You want to aim for that 7 to 9 hours per night and try to sleep at a similar time, wake up at a certain time so you can reset your circadian rhythm as well. Now for me, I can literally feel the impacts of poor sleep the day after. It takes longer for me to kick into gear, my mood is a little bit lower, and my motivation, for example, to train in the gym will be slightly less as well. And I can tell because when I'm on the job, when I'm sleeping properly, I feel like everything's automatic for me. When you're sleeping, your body's basically doing a disc clean. You know, like imagine doing a nice reset on your Mac and clearing everything off. That's what your brain is doing. It's what your mind is doing. You're getting rid of all the information that you don't need, storing the information that you do need, and fully resetting physically and mentally. When you cut your sleep short, you're basically cutting that process in half, and then you're waking up with an unclear disc. There's always some shit in your brain that you just didn't clear out properly. You're feeling lethargic. And you know when you wake up and you feel like, oh, I can't be arsed with today, that's because you're not sleeping properly. I promise you, you do 1 week of sleeping regular time, you'll wake up and start thinking to yourself, let's get after this day. And imagine how much more you can accomplish with that mindset when you wake up in the morning. And the next and final one is actually skipping meals. Skipping meals can lead to overeating later, lead to disrupting your metabolism, decreasing energy levels, and overall increase the chances of including those unhealthy habits which you want to avoid. And eating at set times as well, eating consistently, will increase the chance of you sticking to a routine and training at a similar time and doing your work blocks at a similar time as well. You start to become more systemized, which is important when you're trying to grow your business. Like I mentioned, I systemize my meals. I have meal 1, meal 2, meal 3. Meal 1 is usually between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Meal 2 is usually between 3 and 5 p.m. and meal 3 is usually between 7 and 8 p.m. And in between then I'll have a snack or banana or something like that. But this gives me some sort of idea that I can work towards at all times. I'm not guessing. I've got my brain power where it needs to be. And doing this just makes it a habit, and it makes you save your mental energy for what matters most. Plus I eat the same type of food, so it's even less effort. So for example, morning meal will usually be eggs, second meal will usually be some sort of chicken, and third will usually be some sort of beef or fish. And if I get bored, I'll just switch up the recipe so it keeps it fresh. But systemizing it is the most important thing.